All right, everyone, we are back. And let me make sure all of the prosecutors are co-hosts. Always know it's hard to come back in the afternoons, but thank you all for your patience. All right, Johnny Cisneros, who did you have?
I have Mr. Blake Wilburn as family violence, Your Honor.
All right, and what is happening with your case?
Judge, I wanted to know if I could get in a breakout room with you and a prosecutor so we can talk about him, please.
Sure. Ms. Hayden, are you here?
It was Michael Villarreal that I was speaking to earlier this morning.
All right, Michael Villarreal, are you here? All right, as soon as he logs in, we'll take care of that. James Oterstor.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I've conferred with Marcus Sanders. We've had an offer. I've conveyed it to Mr. Schultz, and Mr. Schultz wants time to think about it. It may be a regular reset. He's not sure what he wants to do.
All right, is Mr. Schultz in custody or on bond?
He's in custody, Your Honor. He was on all morning with us.
Okay, so the offer was tendered?
Yeah, I told Mr. Schultz about the offer, and he wants a little time to think about it.
All right, do you have all the discovery?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All right, Ms. Ferguson, on Mr. Schultz, can I have a 30-day reset? And that 30-day reset, Mr. Ostersdorf, will be your client's plea deadline date.
Judge, I'm not really sure. I haven't really asked Mr. Sanders if we have all our discovery. I probably need to do that.
Okay.
Honestly,
all right. So is Marcus Sanders here?
Yes, Judge.
All right, Mr. Otersdorf, if you go to breakout room number 3.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So just to see if he has all the discovery, Mr. Sanders. All right, Daniel De La Garza, who's been so patient with us.
Keep it in my pocket, Your Honor.
Yes, but take it out as needed. So who do you have?
I have Matthew Gonzalez, and it's on that motion to alter and amend the conditions of bond.
Okay, and that one is not indicted, correct?
It is not, Your Honor. There are 2 cases, a CM and a night mag. I filed a motion into each case.
Okay. All right, and the court has those. Who is the prosecutor you're working with?
It was Mr. Villarreal.
Judge, I don't think Michael had to run an errand during lunch. I don't think he's back yet, so I can step in.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right, we will take this up, everyone. Court is calling night mag number 641135 and CM 093851, State of Texas versus Matthew Gonzalez. Can I have parties announced for the record, please, for the state?
Michelle Hayden for the state.
For the defense?
Daniel De La Garza for the defense.
And are you Matthew Gonzalez?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
We're proceeding by video because of the pandemic. Any objections from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Any objections from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
In each of these cause numbers, the defense has filed motions requesting an alternate amendment to bond conditions, and it's as it relates to GPS. I'm assuming that the defendant is asking to be allowed to go to and from work, and they're asking Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Defense, is my understanding that the state is not in agreement. Is that correct?
They're not, Your Honor. And in talking to Mr. Villarreal, it was due to a concern that Mr. Gonzalez works as a diesel mechanic. And the concern from the state was that there may be minor children in the vicinity since the shop where he works is located at a travel center. I've talked to my client, Your Honor, and he tells me that he works like at the service bays away from the convenience store, so to speak. And he says that it's over like 500 feet from the general public. So I think that, the state's concern can be alleviated In that way, we can also put a condition of like no contact with minor children to address the concern. But other than that, Your Honor, he was in jail from 12/7 to approximately January the 12th. And remarkably, his boss is still willing to let him go back to work. Like I stated earlier, he's a diesel mechanic away from minor children. He works with, other men and mechanics and stuff like that. So we're asking that the court grant the motion, allow him to work from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, maybe a little bit of leeway each way, so he has some time to get back home. But that's what we're at.
And State, does that alleviate your concerns as far as minor children?
Judge, well, that was our main concern, is the future safety of the victim and the community in this case. I did send the police reports to you, and Daniel, I don't think I had your email address, but I can forward that right now as well, if you want to chat it to me. But that is our concern. It's just that he's going to be around minors, and the seriousness of this offense. In reviewing the report, he admitted that he had an ongoing sexual relationship with a teenage girl, the daughter of his girlfriend at the time. This wasn't a one-time incident. They had sex on a number of occasions. So that is a concern to the state.
All right, so here's the court's question, and these are just questions the court has. He wants to have employment. His job is as a diesel mechanic. Is there anything that can be done in his occupation that will alleviate the state's concerns? Because I'm assuming he is going to go to whatever location it is, provide information of the location where he's going to be doing the work. Am I correct in that defense? Is he going to be providing proof of where he's going to be working and the time he's going to be working?
Of course, Your Honor. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and we would ask for no contact with minor children as well.
All right, and that's going to, Mr. Gonzalez, the court is going to order that anyway. If that hasn't been ordered previously by the magistrates, there's going to be no contact with minors. You understand?
Yes, ma'am, completely.
And it's my understanding, being a diesel mechanic, I don't know of any minors that have, vehicles that are diesels. So you shouldn't be doing any work for minors. You understand?
Yes, ma'am. Aside from that, the only individuals I have contact with are the tow truck drivers, because the diesel engines that I work on are large trucks. They are not civilian vehicles. They are commercial.
Yeah, let me clarify that, Your Honor. It's not like a contract with Amazon, but it's like the 18-wheelers that Amazon uses. So it's not like the general public's coming in and bringing their cars, and the kids will go and get a Coke or something like that. It's not like that. It's a very specific type of vehicle that he works on. It's 18-wheelers, and I think that's also important for you to know, Your Honor.
So these are not. I want to be clear. So this is not a situation where he is a mechanic and just a layperson brings in a vehicle and they have children in the vehicle and say, hey, fix my vehicle. And by the way, I'm leaving the children here. That's not what we're dealing with.
Correct. My understanding, it's not like that, Your Honor. And, I should have brought that up to you to begin with. No, it's 18-wheelers. It's like, people who drive those things for Amazon or big companies, bring them in. And Mr. Gonzalez and the rest of his crew, all adult males mostly, work on those vehicles.
So he's not going out to any locations? Is he at a stationary place?
That's my understanding, yes.
Mr. Gonzalez, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right, if you can lower your hand and state your name for the record, please.
Matthew Robert Gonzalez.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, where is the location where you work?
I can't give you, it's on Foster and I-10 off of, I don't know the exact address. If you got, Daniel, you need the exact address of this location?
Just 1 second.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Brenna is an excellent court reporter. She can actually take down 3 people at one time. And you all have just made me say that live. So now somebody's going to try to take her from us and hire her away. But let's make it easier on her. We're right back after lunch. If we could talk one person at a time. What I'm trying to get from Mr. Gonzalez is just the exact location where he'll be working so that the state will know where he's working and we will know if he deviates from his path from home to work and work to home.
I can
Yes,
provide
ma'am.
that to you, Your Honor. Give me a
Yes.
second, Mr. Gonzalez. 6170 IH10 San Antonio, Texas 78219. And it is called the Travel Centers of America.
Now, Travel Centers of America, that's not some type of hotel where people go, is it? Because I find it odd that a mechanic's place is called Travel Centers of America.
Okay, well, that's the information that he's given me, Your Honor. So, I mean, I don't, we can
If I
ask.
may speak, Your Honor.
Yes.
The travel center is just referred to a Travel Center of America. There are no hotels in any of the facilities across the nation. There is obviously restaurants and clothing that are sold within the travel center, but we are separate from the travel center. We are in the service center, and I work in the bays that are furthest away from the store in that service center, which is about 500 feet away from the general population, and that's where I spend my days.
All right. So state, now that that has been explained, do you have any concerns with him being allowed to work?
Judge, I just pulled up the location. I mean, as Mr. Gonzalez mentioned, it does appear that there are restaurants. Mr. Gonzalez, may I ask some questions?
Yes, ma'am.
What restaurants are at the facility where you work at?
Fazoli's, Burger King, and Popeyes.
Okay, so there's restaurants right in the facility. And when you say, like there's a retail area as well, is that correct?
Yeah, they have towards I guess towards the central location of their store. They sell small goods, stuffed animals, some shirts, things of that sort.
Okay, and families go to this location, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. In the central store, yes.
Judge, my concern is just, and I would offer State's Exhibit 1 for the court's consideration, just, you know, how do we guarantee that he's not around minor children or teenagers?
Well, Judge, you have bond conditions in place that, you know, that he'd abide by, and I object to.
But first, is there any objections to State's Exhibit 1? The court hasn't reviewed it, but it appears to be the police report.
There are, Your Honor. I don't think it's relevant to this hearing.
All right, that'll be overruled. Just give me a moment to review State's Exhibit number 1. All right, the court is ready to make its ruling unless there's more argument from either side.
Not from the defense, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor.
All right, this is what the court is going to do. He is going to remain on GPS, of course, but it's going to be partial. You will be allowed to work, and you're allowed to work at Travel Centers of America at 6170 IH10 San Antonio 78219 in the service bay.
Yes, ma'am.
That GPS will show if you go to the restaurants there, if you go to any other place other than that service bay. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And if there is not a no contact order in place, then there's to be no contact with the complainant or the complainant's family. Is there anyone else that the state is requesting a no contact order with?
Just no minor children or no unsupervised with minor children.
All right,
No,
there's to be no unsupervised contact with any, there's to be no contact with any minor child that you are not related to, and there's to be no unsupervised contact with minor children. So if you're related to them, there can be no unsupervised contact. And I'm putting that in place in case there's a barbecue or something of that nature. But if you have no relation to them, then you are not to have any contact with a minor. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
State, does that address your issue with the no contact?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, if there's nothing else, the record will be closed.
Your Honor, just one thing, the orders that you've made, I just want to make sure that they're applicable to both cases, so there's no trouble with a
Yes,
pretrial.
they are.
Thank you.
All right, you are excused.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Everyone, just give me a moment while I write up this order, please. All right, Mr. Cisneros.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to go into a breakout room, please, with Her Honor and Michael Villarreal, please.
All right, Michael Villarreal, if you could meet us in breakout room number 1, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And everyone, just give me a moment. We're almost in the home stretch. Sylvia Cavazos, who are you here for?
Good afternoon, Judge. Louis
afternoon.
Guyton, it's family violence.
All right, and I'll send you to a breakout room.
Thank you.
I'm going to send you to breakout room number 3.
Thank you, Judge.
You get to go to another Zoom. All right, we are back. Kenneth Eric Baker, who has been so patient.
Thank you, Judge. Yes,
So has your client. So
Uh,
what are we doing with your client?
Your Honor. Well, during the time that we've waited, we've used our time well and getting some information back and forth between the state and the defense, and they are in agreement with our motion, which might make the court's job easier. It's our request to just modify her bond conditions to go to tracking only. The court had previously modified her bond conditions to partial house arrest. Many months ago, she's done perfectly on it. She's a young single mother, has to take her kids various places and go to work, etc. The state's looked into it and contacted the complaining witness, is okay with it. We're asking that court change those conditions to reflect tracking only plus the stay away order that's already in place, if that's acceptable.
All right, Ms. Williams, all of the bond conditions will remain in place except for the GPS. The GPS will be tracking only. If there are violations that relate to that GPS, what's going to end up happening is you may be looking at full house arrest or something else, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Then if
Thank
there's
you, Your
nothing else, Mr. Baker, you and your patient client are excused.
Thank you, Judge. Have a good day.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Ferguson, do you have an update on the immigration attorney for Mr. Rodriguez?
He's coming in, Judge. I accidentally put the wrong email in. I just sent it to him again.
All right, thank you. All right, James Openstorm.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Marcus Sanders and I looked at the report. There appears to be a video that exists that's not found. So Marcus sent an email to the detective inquiring about its existence.
Okay,
It
all
may or
right.
may not exist, so we don't
Norma,
know.
so Mr. Schultz, we need to recall this instead for a discovery. And
Yes,
Marcus,
Judge.
how much time do you need to see if the video actually exists and where it may be?
I think about 2 weeks would be more than enough.
All right, so we recall it for 2 weeks, Ms. Ferguson? All right, so we're going to come back on the 15th.
15th of
February.
February. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let me get down to HEB and strip the shelves because there's cold weather coming, right?
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
That's a new tradition in San Antonio. Go buy
Oh,
all.
yeah, there's no better time to, I guess, buy up everything as though it's the end of the world.
I caught your taxi driver this morning. I don't know if anyone else did or not.
Thank you. You know what? People don't get my references, which tells me that I'm getting much older than everyone.
Well, I had to learn the hard way with Judge Harrell. He used to do them all the time. And he would be disappointed when no one got him and so on. And so I was always on board of them. So.
Well, we're going to have you Zoom in every day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Cornelius Cox. He's trying
Yes, Your Honor.
to. Yes, hi. So you are here for?
I have two, Carlos Romero and Rogelio Sanchez.
All
I
right,
need
your
to talk to-
co-counsel has been here. So on Carlos Romero, that's been reset
problem.
for March 16th.
Okay, March 16th, that's fine, Judge.
And
And
who
the
is your
other-
other person?
Rogelio Sanchez.
Let me find him on the
It's
sheet.
probably both.
No, we're doing it on different dates. Ms. Ferguson, what date is Rogelio Sanchez?
The 28th, February 28th.
All right, that's February
January
20
28th? Oh,
no,
February.
February 28th.
And the other one was March.
The other one was
March
March
8th.
16th.
Okay, March 16th.
All right, Mr.
All right.
Cox, since
That
I
was
have
a
you
pleasure.
here, who's winning the Super Bowl this year?
You know, Judge, I went with Kansas City. I thought that, but you know what? I see your boy is a quarterback for the underdogs. So,
LSU, LSU didn't have a good season. The Saints didn't, but we're still in the Super Bowl.
yeah, so what I'm gonna do, Judge, I'm going with it. I'm an AFC person. I'm a Dolphin. I go AFC unless it's New England Patriots. If it's the Patriots, I go against them. But other than the Patriots, I'm AFC person. So I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, and you know what? He's going to have won the Heisman, a championship, and a Super Bowl. How many people can say that?
That's tough. It's tough to win it. It's tough to win it. He'll be the new Joe Namath if he can pull this one off. Because I remember Broadway Joe, Baltimore Colts.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Namath, his career went down once he started wearing the fur coats and stopped practicing on the field. You can wear the fur coats as long as you practice, but
practice. We're talking about practice.
You got that reference? Yeah. I think you, me, and Marcus may be the only people who got that reference. I don't know if Ross got that reference. Well, here's to Allen Iverson. Okay.
I got it, Judge.
Thank you, Ross.
Practice.
All right.
We're not talking about a game. We're talking about practice. That is why we're here.
All right. Mr. Cox, is always fun having you on.
Could call Lawana, didn't tell you that. That's hearsay. Remember that?
I do. All right. Thank you.
Anyway,
have a good one.
thank you, just thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Ross, the immigration attorney is here, Alberto Garcia.
Yes,
So
Judge.
I'm going to send you in a breakout room. And Mr. Garcia, Ms. Ferguson has your information. And let me see what date we're giving Jose Lozano. Mr. Garcia, once you go into the breakout room with them and you all confer, if you
Yes,
can
Your Honor.
come back and let me know what date would be good for you to do everything that needs to be done. So I'm going to send you all to breakout room number 2.
Okay.
And I'm trying to find Mr. Lozano. Oh, there he is. Okay. And all right, Ms. Bustamante. I've received the screenshot that really doesn't tell me anything. I mean, so it doesn't tell me that he took a UA, what the results of the UA, it's just screenshot.
Right, they told me that he did check in and that he did speak with someone, but they don't have what they spoke about. And they don't have any further documentation for me, and they cannot release the name of the person that he spoke to.
Well, I want to know why he doesn't have a UA. That's, I mean, that's the whole point. He was supposed to go there to take a UA because there were issues of drugs. So I want to know why there isn't a UA that was done. That's our whole reason for being here.
So he did show up, he checked in, but they told him that he could not get the UA done. Because
I mean, that's not telling, I mean, why did they tell him you can't get a UA? Why did they tell you you couldn't get a UA?
Because I had COVID at the time.
No, you didn't. You didn't bring anything for a COVID test. This just keeps going on. When I keep asking for him to do things, he doesn't do them. He comes up with some reason why he can't do them. That he did not have COVID. There was no documentation of him having COVID. He sat on this Zoom screen and basically told me he wasn't going to go do a UA, and he didn't like what the consequences would be based upon the results of the UA. And this keeps happening with Mr. Rocha.
Your Honor, if we could just have time, I can find whomever he spoke to that day, because he did go and he was denied entry into either the building or to take the UA. I wasn't there, I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, he's saying he was denied entry because he told them falsely, because he had no documentation, he had no plans to do a UA, that he tested positive for COVID and he didn't provide any documentation. Do you have COVID today?
No, ma'am.
Go do a UA.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, go do the UA.
No. Thank you, Your Honor.
May we be excused, Your Honor?
Yes. And I want that UA done today.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Ferguson, I'm assuming Mr. Odersdorf didn't want to speak on Dasha Grant on a motion to set a bond.
He actually was released from jail yesterday, Judge,
Okay, awesome.
on bond. So I don't know if he's had any contact with him since then.
All right, Ms. Ferguson, on Mr. Rocha. He's doing a UA today. And Rebecca, if that UA is not done today, file a motion, please.
Yes, ma'am. I just put it in the UA agency's system for him to go today.
All right, thank you. And then, Norma, we have an Eric De La Rosa. Does he have an attorney? It doesn't show an attorney listed on the system.
He was supposed to come back today with a hired attorney, Judge. I don't know.
Mr. De La Rosa, who's your attorney?
I told you last time I'm trying to get Manuel Diaz law firm with me, and I made a payment with them, and I spoke with them. I think it was Saturday or Sunday about me doing like the payment still, and they said they would get back to me, and I've been trying to reach them because I did make a $150 payment. I was trying to make a $200 something payment.
All right, Mr. De La Rosa, I've been a defense attorney. I've been a prosecutor. What you're charged with is a felony. I don't know if someone's going to accept your case for $150. I don't know, but this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. Ms. Ferguson, I want him to be here tomorrow, and whatever attorney he's paid money to, either they're going to be on your case or they're not going to be on your case. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But this is an old case, and I'm not going to have the case just sitting here. You understand?
Yeah. No, I understand.
All right. So who is the attorney you were speaking to?
I was speaking to a lot of people in that law firm.
No. We're not. No, time out. We're not playing that game. Who is the attorney that you said you paid $150 to?
I'm not sure which attorney. My attorney was John Reitmeyer before this.
Nope. You just told me that you paid an attorney $150 and then you're going to pay them $200. Who did you pay $150 to?
There was a man named Francisco when I called the law firm, and I spoke with him about making a payment, a payment plan.
Nope. Did you make a payment? Yes or no?
Yes, I did make a payment.
All right. So what law firm were you at where you paid $150?
Manuel Diaz law firm.
All right, Ms. Ferguson. Have Manuel Diaz law firm. What is the number, Mr. De La Rosa? I'm going to put you in a breakout room with the court coordinator. Okay. You're coming back tomorrow. Do you understand?
No, I understand.
And Ms. Ferguson, if we could have that attorney here.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to send you to breakout room number 4.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Jonathan Perez.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
All right, you have Pinckney.
Yes, Your Honor. He was here this morning. The confusion was my mistake, so I know it took some time to get him down there. I think he's in there in the courtroom, Judge.
Okay. All right. Is there a prosecutor available?
Yes, Judge.
Just a little bit back.
All right, the court is calling 2020 CR 11806, State of Texas versus Brian Pickney. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state,
Marcus Sanders.
for the defense?
Jonathan Pettis on behalf of Mr. Pinckney.
All right, and are you Mr. Pickney?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to speak up, Mr. Pinkney.
Yes, Your Honor.
We're proceeding by video because of the pandemic. Any objection from the state?
No objection.
Any objection from the defense?
No objection, Your Honor.
The court will note for the record that the defendant entered a plea to this case. And I believe I wasn't the one who accepted the plea because there isn't anything written on the docket sheet. So let me see when this plea was done. All right, this plea was done on November 9th, 2021. Can you tell the court, Mr. Pettis, did your client enter a plea of no contest or guilty? What was his plea?
It was a no contest plea, Judge. It looks like it was on November 9th, and I believe it was Judge Angelini.
All right, so the defendant entered a plea of no contest, and I'm pretty sure that Judge Angelini found there was sufficient evidence to find you guilty, but deferred finding of guilt. The court did have a chance to review the stipulations, and in case he did not, the court is finding there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty. How I'm deferring the finding of guilt as you've applied for a deferred adjudication. At that time, the defendant entered a plea by video. Mr. Pinckney, do you have any objection to the sentencing taking place by video?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
According to the plea bargain agreement, the state proceeded on count 1, waived count 2 and 3. Punishment is to be assessed at a cap of 12 years. The state opposes your application. There are some cases to be taken in consideration, and there are no contact requests. Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI report?
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor. We reviewed it this morning.
Any objections to the PSI report from the state?
No objection, Your Honor.
Any objections from the defense?
No objections, Judge.
All right, state you are opposed to the application. You may proceed.
Yes, Judge, and no witnesses, just argument. I'm not sure if Jonathan plans to call a witness.
Your Honor, I have 2 witnesses. I have the mother of Brian who's here, and then just argument.
All right, and is this Miss Pickney?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you pronounce your first name Leticia?
Leticia, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Miss Pickney, if you could raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you can lower your hand. If you could spell your first name for the record, please.
My first name is spelled Latiscia.
All right, thank you, Miss Pickney. All right, defense.
All right, Ms. Pinckney, what is your relationship to Brian?
I'm his mother.
And just to give the court a timeline, this case appears to have happened around, looks like November 9th. Let me see, let me just double check, Judge, just so we can get squared away. Do you recall when about this incident happened, Ms. Pinckney?
October of 2020.
Okay, and do you remember when Brian was finally released from jail?
It was March of 2021.
So you'd say he spent about a good 5 months in jail initially?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and since his release, has he been living with you under your care?
Yes, he has.
Okay, and he's not on GPS currently, correct?
No, he is not.
Okay, whenever Mr. Pinckney was released, I believe that there's some documents here in the PSI regarding some mental health evaluations of some sort,
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
What medications is he taking, if any?
He takes medication for anxiety. He was diagnosed with a couple of things. Social anxiety, bipolar.
Okay.
for the most part.
Okay, and just to check here, it appears that he is currently enrolled with the Center for Healthcare Services.
Yes, he is.
And how often does he meet with them?
It depends, but at least twice a month.
Okay, and this is since his release back in March, correct?
Yes, he enrolled 2 weeks after he was released, and he has been compliant up to this point.
Okay, and is he drug tested regularly?
No, he has random, I guess it's random. So whenever they decide that he has to go in, that's when he has to go in.
Okay, and is Brian currently working?
Yes, he is.
How long has he been employed?
He started working a week after he was released.
Okay, and where does he work, ma'am?
He works at a restaurant, a barbecue restaurant. And he doesn't miss work. He does everything. He does everything.
Okay, and what are his duties?
He cooks, he does cashier, he does maintenance, whatever they choose to ask him to do, that's what he does.
Okay, and now we see here in this PSI report that Brian has had a little history with marijuana. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that is fair to say.
And this marijuana has gotten him in trouble, correct?
Yes, it has.
Let me ask you this. Has Brian ever been violent or aggressive towards you, ma'am?
No, not at all. Brian is a big teddy bear. Brian is a big guy. He's a big guy. So, but he's a teddy bear. He loves, all kids love him. Brian has brought home, I don't know how many stray animals because they're just out there.
Yes, ma'am. And does Brian have children?
Yes, he does.
And do they live with you?
Yes.
How many?
2.
And at what age?
We have a newborn, which is going on 4 months, and we have a 7-year-old.
Okay, ma'am. And are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
What is it that you do, ma'am?
I do medical claims, and I also do, I work in 2 jobs, and I also do tax preparation.
Okay, and it's my understanding that you served?
Yes, I did. I served in the United States Army.
Okay. Does Brian have a father?
Yes, he does. And his dad is he's a veteran as well, and he served in the United States Navy.
Okay, and let me ask you this. Does Brian help out around the home?
Brian helps out tremendously. I have his oldest sister, which is my oldest child. She was born with cerebral palsy and hydrocephalus. As when she was younger, it was easier for me to lift her, to help take her to the restroom, to help give her a bath. I'm up there in age at this point, and I can't lift her anymore. I can't. And Brian helps me with the bills now because it's just me. Everything is on me at this point. His father is involved, but his father was while Brian was incarcerated. His dad was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
And does Brian help out with the father?
Yes, because there's times there may be an episode where I can't get him to calm down. And Brian is a big help. Like Brian can talk to him. Brian can help. I can't diffuse every situation. And being honest, no, maybe Brian can't either. But between that, I have other children as well. So there's times that I need just need them to be protected just so that I can get law enforcement or his VA team to come and assist me.
Okay. And ma'am, what conditions of the court are you helping Brian satisfy at the moment? And I know that he was released in March.
As far as Brian I'm gonna be honest with you, Brian, a lot of this he has taken on himself. This incident showed Brian a lot, and being incarcerated was somewhere he didn't want to be. Brian has taken on the role of dad. He wants to show his kids a better life, and he's told me that many a times. And I can honestly say that being incarcerated showed him where he didn't want to be and what he needed not to do.
And how long has he been out, ma'am?
He has
Since-
been out a year in March. And I can tell you that I'm so proud of the man that he's become, that it's amazing. It's amazing.
And he's not on any restraints, correct?
No, he is not. He is not. He restrains himself because he comes home every day and makes sure that he takes care of his children. He makes sure that, Mom, do you need anything? Mom, take a break. Mom, I see you're tired. And I've been tired for a while, to the point where there's days that I know that I don't know how I'm doing it, but I know that I have to keep going. And him changing, it has helped me a lot. It has.
Okay, ma'am. And let me ask you something, because it's on the PSI report. Well, let me ask you this first. How old is Brian?
Brian is 25.
He's 25 years old. Okay.
Yes.
And does he have a high school diploma?
No, he does not.
Does he have a GED?
No, he does not. And he has decided to enroll in GED classes so that he can show his children that it's important to get his education.
Okay, ma'am. And let me ask you this, because I know that this is going to weigh heavy on the court. We have here in this report in regards to gang affiliation. Is Brian gang affiliated?
No, not unless you consider his family a gang, because let me tell you, like, I think it was more people that he was hanging around, and you're guilty by association. And that's basically what it was. As far as him being a gang member, no.
And what side of town do you live on, ma'am?
We live on the east side of San Antonio.
Okay. If there's anything that you'd like to tell this court, please do so. I don't have any further questions.
If there is anything I can say, is that I understand that my son has made mistakes. I understand that he's not perfect, but he's 25, and I would just love for him to still be able to have an opportunity to live a productive life without being incarcerated. This last year has shown me, he's shown me so much of a difference, and he's made so much change. And just him going away, it would really be a hardship, not just financially, mentally. I don't know how I can handle it at this point, because I feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders. And him being here to help me like lift, and him being able to diffuse situations, it helps me a lot. It would mean so much for him to have the opportunity to be out here and to be productive and show his children a better way, the way that he has done.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna say that he hasn't made mistakes. He did. And the 5 months that he was gone, it took a toll. It took a toll not only on me, his dad. His dad, eventually we had to tell him where his son was, and mentally already having the schizophrenia, it played a lot. It really did.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any questions?
None from the state, Judge.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming in to testify.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, anything else, Mr. Perez?
Yes, Your Honor. If I could get some testimony from my client, Brian.
All right, Mr. Pickney, if you can raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes,
All
Your
right, you
Honor.
can lower your hand. All right, defense.
Brian, are you currently still employed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're working at the barbecue place, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what the court has in front of them is they have a PSI report, Brian. And what we're looking at is we're taking into consideration the charges, the nature of the charges, and the threat posed, if any, to the community, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, during this time, you've been working for about a year now, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've been without any constraints, And you've been able to roam freely, correct?
Yes,
Okay, now, looking at these charges, we see that you got some marijuana charges, and that's what seems to have been getting you in trouble. Is that fair to say?
yes, sir.
Okay, now, we're also looking at some of these other charges, which many have been dismissed, but look, it appears that you have one that you do have a conviction for, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, I'm sure what the court wants to hear is we want to talk about this incident in question, okay? We have complainants, Mayra Aldape, Alfonso Diaz, and Eric Aldrete. Did you know any of these individuals prior to this incident?
No, sir.
And who knows these individuals? How did you come about meeting these individuals?
Friends of mine, Adam Cordova and Jay DeLeon.
Okay, and let's just go ahead and get right into it. What were you doing?
Buying weed. Well, they knew where to get weed from, so I was going with them to buy some weed. They invited me to go with them to go get some weed.
Okay, now you can see how doing this has been getting you in trouble, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now in this incident, who knew where to go?
Jay DeLeon.
All right, and it appears that you were invited, or did you know? Did you know where to go? Were you invited to go?
No, I was invited to go, but I didn't know. It was just to buy weed. I didn't know who we were going to get it from.
Okay, so your understanding was that you were just going to get in a car and go purchase some weed, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you can see how that was wrong now,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
With everything that's transpired, you can see that your life has been put in a world of turmoil, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now when going to purchase this, what happened next?
Well, the people we were getting it from, Jay DeLeon exchanged words with them because they shorted him on some weed, so they exchanged words.
So Mr. DeLeon was under the impression that he was shorted?
Yes, yes.
And then what happened after that? Did he feel disrespected?
Yes, it was a verbal argument and he felt disrespected and the fight broke out.
Okay, and this was a verbal fight or a physical fight?
It was a verbal altercation that turned into a physical altercation.
Okay, and at this point, who was fighting?
Jay DeLeon and Adam Cordova.
Okay. Did Mr. DeLeon and Mr. Cordova already know these individuals?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, Ms. Pinkney, you could mute yourself. And they already knew these individuals?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, and had they done exchangements with them before?
They could have. They could
Okay.
have.
And the reason I'm getting to this is because in this PSI that I'm looking at, it looks rather incriminating, but at the same time, it's confusing. Okay? So the fight itself was physical, and what transpired next?
Weapon got pulled.
And who pulled this weapon?
Jay DeLeon.
Jay DeLeon, okay. And after this weapon was pulled, what happened?
Basically, it was, them saying like, we're not here to fight. Like, you're gonna give us what you owe us, basically.
Okay.
Because they got shorted on the weed.
Okay. And right now, after this happened, what was your mindset?
To leave.
To leave? And did you? Were you able to get out of there?
Yes, I was the first one out. I stepped out.
Okay. Now let me look at this. how big would you say you are, Mr. Pinckney?
I'm 6'4", 6'5".
You're about 6'4", 6'5"? Okay. And you didn't after you guys had left, you didn't understand, or when did you get contact that you had an at-large case?
About 2 weeks after.
Okay, so you weren't aware. And how did I guess no further questions, Judge. I'm safe for argument.
State.
There's no questions, but I have a rebuttal witness.
All right. Any other witnesses?
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. Just so everyone is aware, the court has read the PSI report. And in the PSI report, it clearly states that Mr. Pinckney had a gun and that items were taken by Mr. Pinckney. None of that appears to have been addressed. I've heard people, I've listened to the testimony of the mother saying that mistakes were made. And I really don't call these things mistakes. I call them people making bad choices. So just so everyone knows, I read the entire PSI report. Mr. Pettis, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. No further witnesses.
State, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Judge.
All right, then the court will.
Judge, if I could ask one last question for Mr. Pinckney.
Yes.
Mr. Pinckney, do you accept full responsibility?
I accept full responsibility.
Would you agree that this marijuana habit has gotten you into a world of trouble?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If you could do things differently, would you?
Yes, sir, I would.
And if you had anything to say to the court, now would be the time to say it.
Your Honor, I'm just asking, I'm not taking any blame off myself, Your Honor. I'm just asking that, I put myself into that situation, not, knowing what could happen.
Well, I mean, no, Mr. Pinckney, here's the thing. Is there anyone here? This is a rhetorical question, but you can answer it. Is there anyone here who knows what could potentially happen if you take a gun and you point it at somebody?
Yes,
is that
ma'am.
something that we do not know? What could happen if you do that, Mr. Pinckney?
Someone could get hurt.
Yeah. And what happens if you take a gun and it has a laser pointer on it and you point it at somebody? What could potentially happen?
It could be used.
What could happen what happens when you goes in somebody's house and you tell them to shut the F up and you have a gun on them? What happens? What could potentially happen?
Someone could get hurt.
And where is, this person said their rosary was stolen. Where is that rosary?
I don't have any of the stolen items that were said to be stolen. Yeah.
All right. Now, what I can tell both parties, I've read the PSI report. I know that at this house, people were selling drugs, period. So I know that. I know that people entered this home with guns, 3 defendants, to steal. That nothing in the PSI report states that somebody went there to buy weed and they were shorted weed and arguments happened. What's in the PSI report before me and in the police reports that's stipulated is people were selling drugs out of that house. People knew that there were items in that house that were valuable items. And what I have here is Diaz reported that the defendant sold $2,000 worth of cocaine, $100 worth of marijuana, an unknown amount of money, a $50,000 Rolex watch, $100,000 platinum necklace, and a television. So that's what we have. So yes, according to everything I'm reading in here, this is what people are saying, and this is in the stipulated evidence. People were selling drugs out of this household. People, the co-defendants, knew they were selling drugs out of this household and that there were items there. And all of these items were stolen during an aggravated robbery. And it's aggravated because people, the co-defendants, pointed guns at them. So is there something that I'm missing that is not in this PSI report other than the testimony that I've heard from Mr. Pinckney's mom, which I haven't internalized, the fact that yes, he uses weed, which I've internalized, that he has 2 children that now he's discovered he should be taken care of. Is there anything else?
Yes, Your Honor, if I could just point out a few things in this PSI.
Yes.
After reviewing the PSI, Judge, we noticed several things. One, that Jay De Leon and Alfonso Diaz, complainant, had known each other, okay? They were on a knowing basis, Judge. It's alleged that there were several injuries, that a girl had broken her bones in her feet, she had an injured back, that a chain was ripped off of her neck, and it's also alleged that somebody was pistol whipped in the back of the head. However, Judge, if you go onto the second page of the official version continued, when the police arrive on scene, all complainants refused EMS, and the police made notation that there did not appear to have any injuries whatsoever. So,
Well, and what I'll say to that, Mr. Pettis, I understand what you're saying to that, and I did read that. Part of the police report, it's stating that the complainant was saying there were prior injuries with the foot in the back. But I understand what you're saying as it relates to the allegation of pistol whipping, and that there were no requests for EMS or to be reviewed by medical by the complainants. Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Pettis.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just to further analyze, Judge, it's also noted in this report that these statements were not made initially at the outset of the call of police. It's indicated on the second page, official version continued at the very bottom, that the complainants were given the opportunity to be taken to night CID to provide statements, but they opted to provide statements at a later time. I think that
all right, and that's because people were selling drugs out of the household. I've read it, the report. Drugs were being sold out of the household. These 3 defendants went there to rob and steal, and
Yes,
they did it at gunpoint.
Yes, Your Honor. And just one last point, Judge, if I could make one.
No, please.
One last point, Your Honor. It's reported. So there's several pages of this report. We've got both official version continued, and we have the narrative, Judge. Now, what seems to not jive with me is we've got an indication of a black firearm being used with the laser on it. Okay. Now, throughout the series of these 3 pages, Judge, we've got different indications, different affirmative indications as to who was carrying that firearm. It's a very specific firearm with the laser on it, Your Honor. And whenever you look at, initially, they indicate that it was Adam Cordova. However, at the same time, they also indicate that it was my client, but they list that my client was 5'3" tall. And that's on the continued version as well. Yes. And I know that you've read it, but I think it's clear to indicate when you compile this with, an expected laceration or some type of concussion with being pistol whipped, and then the identification and so forth. We're not saying that my client is not wrong for being there. We accept full responsibility, Judge. He went there to buy weed, and we're indicating that the way that it's worded, it indicates that there's maybe 4 or 5 individuals and there's only 2 firearms. And with that statement, Judge, not all people can be holding firearms. And these people do know each other to the extent that they had these exchanges before, and they've seen each other and they recognize faces. And the description that was given with the firearm that had the laser on it has 2 inconsistent statements as to who were holding these firearms, Judge. And that's all that we would like to note, but we do take full responsibility. And that's to the facts, Judge. And lastly, all I will say is that Mr. Pinckney has been out for a year. He's not on any constraints whatsoever in regards to GPS or anything like that. He's been in full compliance with his mental health services as ordered by the court, Judge. He's got a job and he is doing well. He is considering going back to school. He's helping his mother not only take care of his father, but also around the house and financially. And he's also got his 2 children. And looking at this, Judge, I feel that he hasn't gotten any new cases. He doesn't have any violations or any complaints whatsoever. And that's not even being on any constraints at all. In contrast to some of the other co-defendants, Your Honor, some of the other co-defendants had already had previous felonies. and had not complied, had cut their GPS off, have been fugitives. Where Brian, on the other hand, Judge, has complied and gone to every hearing, every pretrial hearing. He's gone to every meeting, and he's gone to his PSI, and he's been fully engaged with his medical services, Judge. I do believe that Mr. Pinckney has turned a new leaf, and I would also like to remind the court that he has got about 5 months in the jail that he did, and I think that was a real shock to Mr. Pinckney and how his life is going as a young man. And we hope that the court takes this into consideration, Judge.
All right, State. Is there anything you would like to say?
Just briefly, Judge, in a correction, the PSI says 5'3", but if you look at the stipulated evidence, it says the Brian Pinckney was 6'3", and so I think that's a correction that I should have caught earlier. As far as the facts of this case, we have a victim who are very forthright with the officers. They admitted that they were selling drugs, or at least one of them was. They had no reason to lie. Our victim, Myra Aldape, was the one who had her foot stepped on and was threatened at gunpoint by the defendant and told her that he would blast her. I understand that he doesn't have a lot of criminal history, Judge, but this is, the facts of this case are those where prison is appropriate. Their lives are forever changed. She has a kid that she was fearful for. He said the words, but he hasn't actually accepted responsibility for what he did. He gave a different version of the facts. He said a gun came out. It's obvious that he isn't in a place where he's willing to accept responsibility for what he did and change his life. So we're asking that you deny his application.
All right. The court is going to deny the application, find the defendant guilty. Does anyone wish to speak to the cap?
Judge, the state would ask, the co-defendant Adam Cordova pled to 7 years, so we feel that 7 years would be appropriate.
Defense.
Your Honor, we feel that 7 years is excessive, given for the reasons contrasted previously, Judge.
All right, this is what the court is going to do. The court, as previously stated, is finding you guilty, sentence you to a $1,500 fine, time and money and rank concurrent, taking consideration County Court Cause number 630-977, 649-329. There should be no contact with Myra, M-A-Y-R-A, Aldape, Eric Aldrete, Jacob DeLeon, Adam Cordova. Sentence you to 7 years in the prison, give you credit for any time served. There's an affirmative finding of deadly weapon. I'll ask that you be placed in the therapeutic community, but whether or not you're in the therapeutic community will depend on you applying for it and whether or not they will accept you. They may not accept you based upon the nature of these charges. I'm going to show you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it and did you sign it? Mr. Pinckney?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it and did you electronically sign it?
Come on, Mom. Come on, Mom.
Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it and did you sign it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, because you waived your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Because this is a felony conviction, you're not allowed to own or possess any weapons or ammunition. If you wanted a definition of what a weapon is, you'll have to speak to an attorney. Do you understand, Mr. Pinckney?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we can go off the record. Mr. Pinckney, the court understands that you've made changes in your life, and the court appreciates that fact. That is why the court agreed and sentenced you to 7 years instead of the 12 years. I understand from reading the police report everything that was going on in that situation. But sometimes when offenses are committed, it is not enough that you are doing better now. Sometimes it is you have to have punishment for what you've done. So there's a combination of punishment and rehabilitation. That night, so much could have went wrong. You could be sitting here with capital murder charges if guns would have went off, because there's a robbery being committed And if people are killed, that equals capital murder. Now, I know you have a young child. I know you have an older child. Those are things that should have been thought about before you went to this home. So that's where we are. Mr. Sanders?
Judge, we do have impact statement. I know the court still has a busy docket, so maybe a breakout room or.
Yes. To the courtroom. If you could go to breakout room number 2, please.
Yes, Judge.
And I'm trying to find. All right, and Mr. Sanders, if you will go to 2, please. Mr. Perez, I'm going to send you to breakout room number 2 as well.
Okay, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your patience. Johnny Cisneros.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. We might have misunderstood. Were we supposed to wait in the waiting room for a?
No, I told you could be excused from there.
Oh, okay.
But people like to stay in the 187th. That's okay.
I love your court. I really do.
Oh, thank you, Johnny.
But-
You can be excused.
Thank you so much.
All right. Ross Rodriguez and Jose Lozano, did you have a chance to confer with the immigration attorney?
We did, Judge. Went over some of the elements, Your Honor, and what Mr. Lozano's situation was as far as being a resident alien, Your Honor, and basically I asked the court, and I believe the immigration attorney is going to agree with me, Judge. He's going to write up a report, but he's got to research a few things. So we're looking for 60-day reset, Judge.
Oh, no, we don't do 60-day resets. We do give people time, and then we'll see where we are, and then we'll come back for another date if needed. Mr. Garcia, can we?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Can we recall this for 30 days and see where we are?
Judge, I mean, I understand the court's docket and time constraints, Judge. The only thing is that I do have a couple of matters that are coming up that are going to require my attention. And currently with my COVID situation, that was kind of the reason for asking for the 60 days.
Oh, no, Mr. Garcia, it's just to see where we are, because what I've discovered sometimes, and this is, all attorneys, not just you, sometimes myself, when I was a defense attorney and a prosecutor, when we don't have dates, sometimes dates creep up on us. And so this is just a date just for us to see where we are. So in 30 days, if there's still more work that needs to be done, just all you have to do is zoom in and let the court know, or Mr. Rodriguez will let it know. I'm not necessarily saying that I'm expecting you to have solid information for Mr. Rodriguez or Mr. Lozano on that day. It's just that I need to keep the cases not, with a long reset, because then when we come back on 60 days, we're back on 60 days. And
understood, Your Honor.
Things happen. So we're going to come back on March 9th, and that will be by Zoom.
One second here, let me pull up my calendar and make sure. You said March 9th, Judge?
March 9th.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Bye-bye, Your Honor.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
Thank you,
Rose.
Judge. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ochoa, why are you here? Who's Mr. Ochoa's attorney? All right, Sylvia
It says
Cavazos.
Mary Peterzak.
Hi, Judge.
Hi.
Judge, we
Your Honor.
reached an agreement, and so Ms. Hayden is putting some paperwork together to send to us.
All right, thank you so much.
You're
Mr.
welcome. Thank
Mr.
you.
Lozano, you're excused.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. All right, and who is the attorney for Louis Guyton?
Judge, that is ours.
Oh, that's yours. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Your name has changed, and it's just your name. Let me put that. So
I know. I didn't fix it once
That's
I got
okay.
on. I was multitasking today.
No
Okay,
problem.
so we'll just hang tight for the paperwork, okay?
All right, and what I'll do is I'll send you and your client in a breakout room, and
Judge,
paperwork will be coming your way.
Judge, I'm
Okay,
trying
thank
to,
you.
before she goes, can you have her send me the defendant's email address and what the offer is, please?
All right, so she needs to know the defendant's email address and the offer.
Yes, okay. I'm getting a message from Ms. Hayden. I'll check my email to see if I've gotten it. Only because the actual terms, we didn't discuss the smaller terms. We have the main probationary period. So I will send it to you though, Norma. Thank you.
Thanks. And
Okay.
Norma, if you can see if we can get Ms. Peter Zach in here.
Yes, ma'am.
And this will be the last case then. Peter Zach and the paperwork for this.
And Judge, on that other case with Mr. De La Rosa, I contacted the law firm. They said they don't have a contract with him. I guess he's trying to rehire them. And they said they haven't spoken to him, so they're not actually have a contract with him.
Okay, so we'll have him come, we'll have the defendant come back tomorrow and we'll take that up.
Okay, I think he might still be on Zoom. Is he on Zoom still?
No, he's not. He has left.
All right.
Thanks. All right, everyone, it appears that Mr. Elwell is not going to Indiana because I guess the relationship was complicated. She's not accepting him in Indiana. So he's going to be moving to Corpus. So, Rebecca, on Mr. Elwell, it's going to be a transfer to Corpus as opposed to Indiana.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you so much. Mr. Ochoa, you need to appear in court.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we'll see you here. It's located at 300 De La Rosa, 4th floor.
Today or tomorrow?
Today.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, and everyone, if you will give me a moment, and as soon as that paper's work done, we will take that up. Brenna and Norma, can I see you both in a breakout room, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Number 3.
Okay.
Hello, we are back. And I think Mr. Eric De La Rosa. Eric De La Rosa. We're going to see you tomorrow. Ms. Ferguson has spoken to the attorneys at the office. They say they have not been hired. So if you're going to hire them, you need to hire them by tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
See you tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, bye-bye. Right. And then that just leaves us with Peter Zach and the case they're working on, the paperwork. All right, everyone, just give me a moment. I'll be right back. Hello? You're welcome. No. Mr. Guyton, I'm going to send you into breakout room number 2 so you can be sworn in. The clerks will meet you there.
Judge, can I see in a breakout really quick?
Yes. I can meet you in breakout room number 3.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Miss Peterzak.
Hi, good afternoon, Judge. I am so sorry I didn't make it back this morning.
Oh, hey, we're here 9 to 5.
That's good. That's good.
So what's going on?
I think I was set this morning for Mr. Ochoa.
Yes.
And that's all I know.
Okay, well, he is on his way down here.
Oh.
Yes, okay. So We're trying to see where he is.
Okay. Did something happen on Zoom?
No, nothing happened on Zoom, but he was supposed to appear in person.
Okay. I think there may be some warrants.
Okay. That's probably why. I'm sorry, everyone. Just give me one moment, please. All right, are the parties ready on Guyton?
State President ready, Your Honor.
Okay.
We're ready, Your Honor. Mr. Guyton should be on.
Yes, he is.
He is, okay. Let's see. Let me see, I need it.
Okay, and I just need your video, Ms. Cavazos. Thank
Yes,
you.
I was cleaning it.
Okay, no problem.
I didn't want to put my finger on there like that, so.
Oh, that has happened to me before. And sometimes you see something and you're like scratching, like, what is that? And then you're like, don't
Yes.
scratch the screen. All right. Court is calling 2021 CR 6115, State of Texas versus Luis Fernando Guyton. Could I have parties announced for the record, please, for the state?
Michael Villarreal for the state.
For the defense?
Sylvia Colossus for Mr. Guyton.
And are you Mr. Guyton?
Yes, I am.
We're proceeding by video because of the pandemic. Any objection from the state?
No objection, Your Honor.
Any objection from the defense?
No objection.
Mr. Guyton, I'm showing you what's entitled Defendant's Consent to Appear by Video. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it? And did you electronically sign it?
Yes, ma'am.
Court will find that the defendant has knowingly and voluntarily consented to appear by video. Next, Mr. Guyton, I'm showing you a document entitled Application for Deferred Adjudication or Community Supervision. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it and did you sign it?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, I'm showing you the discovery acknowledgement. Have you received all the discovery in this case and did you review it with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Court will find that the state is in compliance with the discovery. Mr. Guyton, I'm showing you what's entitled True Bill of Indictment. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, do you waive the reading of the indictment?
We do, Your Honor.
State, are you proceeding on the indictment as presented?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Guyton, I'm showing you what's entitled Court Admonishments and Defendant's Waivers and Affidavit of Admonitions. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it? Did you electronically sign it in all the appropriate places?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand you're charged with indecency with a child by exposure? That's a third-degree felony. The range of punishment is anywhere from 2 to 10 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
If you have a plea bargain agreement with the state, the court does not have to follow your plea bargain agreement. If for any reason the court does not follow your plea bargain agreement and gives you more than you bargained for, the fact that you enter a plea will not be used against you and you will be allowed to withdraw your plea. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand you have a right to jury trial, a right for you or your attorney to cross-examine and confront any witnesses the state would call in the right to remain silent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand by entering this plea bargain agreement, you were giving up those rights?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you intend to give up those rights and enter into a plea bargain agreement in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand if the court were to grant your application for deferred adjudication, if for any reason your deferred adjudication were revoked, the court could find you guilty and sentence you up to 10 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, has your client been able to provide you with any defenses to this offense?
He has, Your Honor.
Do you believe he has a rational as well as a factual understanding of the charges against him?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe he's currently competent and was legally sane at the time of the offense?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Guyton, has anyone threatened you, coerced you, or placed you in fear to get you to enter this plea?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone promised you anything other than the plea bargain agreement to get you to enter this plea?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with what you represented?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes.
Court will find that the defendant has knowingly and voluntarily waived his right to jury trial. Showing you the plea bargain page, did you review that page with your attorney and did you understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
According to the plea bargain agreement, there's a $1,000 fine. The state recommends deferred adjudication. There's Chapter 62 compliance. There appears to be agreement of 120 hours of community service restitution, a TAP evaluation, and 8 years deferred adjudication. In the 187, the court sets the terms of probation. So the 8 years deferred, I may not give him 8 years deferred adjudication. I may not give him 120 hours community service restitution. So as far as the agreement in this court, the court will note the agreement as Chapter 62 compliance, no contact with the complainant. So do you all still have an agreement with the 120 hours of community service restitution and 8 years deferred adjudication outside the agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the court will note for the record that outside the agreement, it does have the 8 years and the 120 hours in the TAP evaluation. So, yes, Mr. Villarreal?
Yes, Your Honor, I understand that those terms are outside the binding agreement between the parties.
All right. And Mr. Guyton, do you understand that those terms, those specific terms are outside your plea bargain agreement?
I didn't understand. I'm outside the plea bargain, but.
All right. So, Mr. Guyton, the state and the defense, they can make recommendations to the court about the length of your deferred adjudication if I were to grant it, but there cannot be an agreement between you and the state over the length of your probation. You understand?
Okay. Yes.
The 120 hours of community service restitution, that's something that the state and the defense can recommend to the court, but that's not something that the state and the defense can agree to and it be binding upon the court. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So then what's binding upon the court as far as your plea bargain agreement, if I accept it, will be the $1,000 fine, the recommendation of deferred adjudication, Chapter 62 compliance, and no contact with the complainant. Did you understand that to be the entirety of your plea bargain agreement with the state?
Yes, ma'am.
Defense is at the plea bargain agreement.
That is correct, Your Honor.
State is at the plea bargain agreement.
Yes, Your Honor.
Next, I'm going to show you the paragraph entitled Waiver Appeal. Did you review that paragraph with your attorney? Did you understand it? Did you electronically sign it in both places?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand by signing that you're waiving your right to appeal? The only items that can be appealed are written pretrial motions that have been filed, heard, and ruled upon by the court. Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, have there been any such motions?
No, Your Honor.
Next, I'm showing you outside the plea bargain agreement. The state is requesting that your deferred adjudication be for a term of 8 years. There be a TAP evaluation and 120 hours community service restitution. Did you understand those were recommendations from the state and the court does not have to follow those recommendations?
Yes, ma'am.
Then to the offense as charged, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contest.
State any evidence to support the defendant's plea?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, State offers State's Exhibit Number 1 and its attachments.
Any objections?
No objections.
Mr. Guyton, I'm going to show you what's entitled Waiver and Consent to Stipulation of Testimony and Stipulations. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it? Did you electronically sign it in all the appropriate places?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, did you understand you have a right to jury trial, a right for you or your attorney to cross-examine and confront any witnesses the state would call, and the right to remain silent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand that today the state will be presenting evidence in the form of witnesses' statements and police reports, but most importantly, there will be no live testimony? Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Court will find that defendant has knowingly and voluntarily waived and consented to stipulation of testimony and stipulations. Court will accept into evidence state's exhibits 1 and attachments and review the same. All right, after reviewing state's exhibits 1 and attachments, the court will find there's sufficient evidence to find you guilty. How the court will defer finding of guilt as you've applied for deferred adjudication. Are you proceeding with sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anything you wish to say on behalf of your client?
Judge, we would just ask the court to follow the agreement. The recommendation by the state was based on his lack of any violent criminal history or anything of that sort, and no prior felonies. We'd ask the court to follow the recommendation.
All right. So why did this occur? Ms. Cavazos, do you have any reason? Or does your client have reasons why he would do this at Big Blues Pizza?
Judge, basically, he entered into this agreement because it was in his best interest, looking at the possibility of what would happen at trial. He maintains a different version, but we looked at, he weighed all his options and he decided to go forward with the generous offer by the state.
All right, Ms. Guyton, Mr. Guyton, I'm sorry, are you employed?
Matter of fact, I start employment tomorrow.
Doing what?
It's at a company that deals with bolts and screws and fasteners.
Okay. Do you have any grandchildren or children?
Yes, ma'am, I have grandchildren. I have 2.
What are their ages?
One is 8 and one is 9.
And I'm assuming your children are adults?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so are we going to say no contact with Big Blues Pizza, or because I'm assuming the complainant hasn't stopped working there?
Judge, if I may, just from speaking with Michelle, we didn't discuss if she was still working there, but he has no problem if you wanted to go ahead and add no contact with Blues Pizza.
Okay, because I'm just thinking if that's where the complainant was.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, so there's to be,
Understandable.
thank you. There'll be no contact with Big Blues Pizza located at 2048 WW White Road, 78222. There is to be 120 hours of community service restitution. The court will waive 40 of those hours if he provides proof of a COVID vaccination. That includes the booster. The court is not requiring anyone to get the booster, but if you do, 40 hours will be deducted. There's to be proof of employment within 30 days. There should be no employment as a home health care provider or with minors. There should be regular reporting by Zoom or in person. I'm going to want field visits, random, 1 time per month. There should be no unsupervised contact with minors. And there'll be regular UAs unless Ms. Cavazos, do you believe there is any type of alcohol issues?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll do regular UAs to see how they go. And if there are some issues, then we'll take that up at that time. Rebecca, is there anything else Mr. Guyton needs?
I'm sorry, were you gonna do the $1,000 fine and the 8 years?
Oh, sorry, thank you. I wrote it down, but I guess I didn't say it. $1,000 fine probated and 8 years deferred adjudication.
And Your Honor, I'm not sure if you stated it, but no contact with the victim. Will be older than 17 during the period of her probation, of his probation.
All right, there'll be no contact with the complainant, and because there was a pseudonym that's used, Mr. Guyton, they'll let you know the information you need in order not to have contact with her. That's why I put in no contact with Big Lou's Pizza.
Yes.
All right, Rebecca, is there anything else that Mr. Guyton needs?
No, ma'am, that was it.
Mr. Guyton, is there anything else you need from the court in order to be successful?
No, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to show you what's entitled trial. Yes.
If I may, yes, I just want to make sure, as part of his condition of bond, he had the GPS, the partial GPS. Will there be a directive to remove that?
State?
Based on what I'm reading in the notes, Your Honor, we have no objection for him being removed from GPS. As a
All right, well,
condition.
removal of GPS is granted. All right, Mr. Guyton, anything else you need from the court in order to be successful?
No, ma'am. All I can say is you're non-personal, but I hope I never see you again.
Okay. All right. I'm going to show you what's okay. I'm going to show you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Did you review that document with your attorney? Did you understand it? And did you electronically sign it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, because this is a plea bargain agreement, because I followed your plea bargain agreement, and because you waived your right to appeal, you do not have the court's permission to appeal. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Guyton, I'm going to send you to a breakout room with probation, and probation is going to go over conditions with you in the breakout room, okay?
Okay. And once, sorry.
Yes. No, go ahead.
Once I get through with probation, am I excused or do I have to come back to the meeting?
No, you'll be released from the breakout room. And Ms. Cavazos, I'll send you to breakout room as well.
Yes, Judge.
And it's breakout room number 1. Thank you.
Thank you for staying late for this, Judge. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. You're welcome.
Okay.
All right. Do we have Mr. Ochoa in the courtroom, to the courtroom?
No, Judge, is not.
Huh? Okay. All right. We will, Mr. Ochoa, oh, I'm sorry, you back, Ms. Cavazos?
Yes, what breakout room will I be in?
Oh, you'll be in number 1. You should see
Okay.
something that pop up for 1.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right, so what we'll do, Ms. Peterzak, we'll recall Mr. Ochoa for tomorrow.
Alrighty.
All right. And he needs to appear in person in court.
Yes, Judge, I will make sure he gets that message.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, no, I do not have anything in your court tomorrow. So I'll get with Norma about the, sorry about the link.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your Monday afternoon.
All right, you
Gone as
too.
smoothly for y'all as it has for me.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Good seeing you as always.
Always a pleasure, Judge.
All right, thank you. All right, everyone, I am going to stop live stream. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow, and I think we start tomorrow at 10. Is that correct, Ms. Ferguson?
Yes, ma'am. 10 o'clock.
All right, we'll be back at 10 tomorrow because I'm still filling